Thank you for joining us for this lunchtime news broadcast where we catch up on the news making headlines across Namibia and expanding to the rest of the continent and the globe. In this Friday broadcast, we have the following stories to keep you updated in the lunch hour. In international news, the UN suspends Russia from human rights body, Moscow then quits. Locally, a Kutu market reopened for traditional alcohol traders. Learners' COVID-19 vaccination campaign launched in Keetmanshoop. We also take a look at the news headlining today's daily newspapers, bringing you sports and economic news and more international headlines. I am Ashwin Bedi and this is NMH at 1. In today's midday news update, the Home Affairs Ministry will have a stakeholders engagement this afternoon with the residents of Samora Machel constituency in Vanaheda, Windhoek. The engagement will focus on services and products that the ministry offers, such as birth certificates, identity documents, passports, the change of personal details in the national documents, and immigration, amongst others. This engagement will also allow the community to interact with leaders and get inside information regarding national documents. We return with more news from across Namibia right after the break. Getting into today's visual news clips, the Ekutu market recently reopened for traditional alcohol traders. Here, trader Matthew Indongo shares his excitement about the move, as does chairperson of the Ekutu Market Committee, Abraham Nyipunya. They spoke to Nikano Nangolo.
The municipality of Walvis Bay recently reopened the Ekutu market to traditional alcohol traders after a 2-year closure due to COVID-19. Matthew Ndongo, a trader at the market, shares his excitement, saying that they have been struggling to take care of their families and to pay their landlords due to unemployment. Abraham Nyipunya, chairperson of the Ekutu Market Committee, concurs, saying that he is happy that traders can finally come back to the market to make a living for themselves.
La tekap mara be fanda pandule ku tesile ya peife ini we tu peife tuna kumon ne bashi de tu peife watu futuka mangulu ta kwetu lina ima e nota ilonga kama shamba mbai mara peife nga ta pandura se kuture ya ondala bako tu eitine ome na kale ba kwatela ku kuture tuli na tekap pali mba
ajina kama mimi Abraham Mpunye ya am national committee open market Ujango phase 1 pia phase 2 ya o apa tuditeke yako na wanu ya tudito wapandwa ne hono osho bahanga yudafano pokati kamuni no trader o committee ko anu adwe kushuna ko mashara wao ko bala ndike ro apa pele una mboroto no kwa ko kota erendi na rashi ko tabra he tomu ko namna ndo kanda le kalekerwa damuka se umwa pato ngange.
Now, the launch of the Learners' COVID-19 Vaccination Campaign took place at Keetmanshoop Secondary School earlier this week. Monique Adams was there.
For us to be vaccinated. And to launch this campaign, I must applaud the government of Namibia, and especially the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture that has embarked on this activity. Therefore, what I have said a bit earlier, I'm talking to the teachers and the parents, because the learners will believe what you are telling them. Are we together? If the teachers say that the vaccination, you will be gone by after 2 years, and that's what the learner will believe. Are we together? We know that whenever the teacher says here, you must bring me what and what. And if you went back home and you tell your parents, Mr. Roy, they say I must do this, A, B, C, and D. And the parents say, but it's impossible. What are you normally telling your parents? You say, the teacher has said. So the teacher should know that whatever you are going to tell the learners around the vaccines, that is exactly what will happen at the end of the day. So if you are not yet vaccinated and you have some doubts, you are an educated person, Google, get information as much as possible, convince yourself, get vaccinated so that you can be able to spread the message freely without no doubt, so that the learners and this campaign in particular can be a success at the end of the day.
People are asking now, where did it come from just out of the blue? This coronavirus, it belongs to a big family of SARS viruses. SARS virus just means it's a severe acute respiratory illnesses that exist. They do. We had the Spanish flu, there was swine flu, there was SARS. You've heard of these diseases, right? Now specifically, this one belongs to that very same family of diseases. Now, when they discovered it, since the symptoms were persistent with the Myers and the Spanish flu, they came up with a name to call it the COVID. This is how the laboratories also classify diseases. So you can know tomorrow what is it that you are going for treatment. Then, the COVID that was discovered in 2019. Basically, that is how the name was made down. So don't say it's a Chinese virus. It was not designed and created there. It was detected there. Any illness or disease or virus can exist everywhere in the world, given the right conditions.
It is a Friday, and if you still don't know what to get up to, check out what's happening on the entertainment front and what Namibian Sun's entertainment reporter Michael Kayunde recommends. Hello NMH at 1 viewers, my name is Michael Kayunde, back on your TV screens to give you a lowdown of some of the events that are happening this weekend. To start with, you can catch the chill sessions right here on Namibian Sun's Facebook page. That's the show where we get to take you in and around the country, showcasing you the latest music videos for the week. Also happening tonight is a cypher at Vinyls hosted by Script as well as KP Illest. So for those of you who are hip-hop lovers and are lovers of freestyles and rap, the Vinyls is the place for you to be at. Another event you should check out is the Windhoek Annual Cultural Festival, which actually began on Wednesday, but you can catch musical performances tomorrow. It's happening at the Sam Nujoma Stadium. $60 gets you in. So those are some of the events that I had for you tonight. Until next time, it's bye-bye. When we return, we'll be taking a sneak peek inside Namibia's daily print publications. But first, a quick ad break. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. We now look at what the lead stories are in Namibia's daily newspapers. The Namibian Sun reports that working individuals who change jobs, go on early retirement or get fired and would like to cash out their retirement benefits might only have until 1 October to do so. On page 3 of the Namibian Sun, it is reported that almost half of the more than 110,000 IDs produced during the previous financial year remain uncollected at the Home Affairs Ministry. Out of the 114,354 ID cards that the Home Affairs Ministry produced during the 2021-22 financial year, 52,999 cards are still to be collected. Now, the Republican reports that the total ban on the release of the Cabinet's records on its procedures and decisions closes the door for the public to have the right to access important policy decisions and government processes. Republican also reports that concerned stakeholders in the red meat industry in South Africa have committed themselves to compiling a document within a few days as a guideline for the way forward in the fight against foot and mouth disease. The Algemeine Zeitung reports that the chairman of the African Energy Chamber, AEC, commented on his declaration of intent for the joint hydrogen development concluded with Germany. The gas production is apparently equal to the hydrogen. The Algemeine Zeitung also reports that the central government should financially support Walvis Bay in the development of the new suburb Farm 37. The Walvis Bay City Council wants to appeal to the government with a corresponding plea that more than 108 million Namibian dollars is currently needed. After the break, we'll have a look at the front pages. Stay with us. Looking at the front pages, the Namibian reports that the Central Procurement Board of Namibia has disqualified 3 companies that are controlled by 3 brothers from bidding for contracts valued at 382 million Namibian dollars to supply maize meal and protein to the Education Ministry. The Namibian also reports that the Namibia Students Financial Assistance Fund last year recovered 10 million Namibian dollars, the highest amount the institution has collected since 2008. In the new era, it is reported that as consumers are still reeling from the largest ever fuel increase in the country's history this week, vehicle owners are flocking to the Namibian border town of Oshikango to fill up their tanks. In the new era, it is also reported that senior officials of the Environment Ministry came under fire yesterday when they appeared before the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Legal Affairs for allegedly having failed to properly consult over the Bwabwata National Park, tourism and development benefits with communities living and surrounding the game reserve. The Careers Hub reports about Dr. Matthias Gwangwama, who is the Managing Director of Namibia Wildlife Resort. And finally, in economic news, according to the Market Watch, Pick n Pay grew its sales by more than 5% over the past year, with its clothing division seeing 21% growth and the group's liquor sales increasing by more than 57%. Sticking with economic news, Namibia experienced a trade deficit of 3.9 billion Namibian dollars in February. This and more, and stories from the world of economics when we return. In today's economic news, Namibia exported goods worth 5.7 billion Namibian dollars in February and imported goods worth 9.6 billion Namibian dollars, leading to a trade deficit of 3.9 billion Namibian dollars during the same month. According to an analysis by Simone Storm, exports were mainly from the manufacturing category, which formed 68.3%, mining with 25.7%, and agriculture at 4.7%, and were mainly destined for the rest of Africa, Africa, Asia, and Europe. The biggest contributors to exports in February 2022 were diamonds, which rose 35.6%, uranium that rose from, uranium to 1 billion Namibian dollars in the last 12 months, gold that rose by 92.8%, and copper blisters that were up 82.1%. Fish exports, however, dropped by 12.3%. According to the Simonis report, the main contributors to imports were vessels, down from 3 million Namibian dollars to 2.5 billion Namibian dollars, petroleum oils that shot up by 28.2%, and alcoholic beverages that went up 46.4%. Namibia recorded an annual trade deficit of 29.3 billion in 2021, with a monthly average trade deficit of 2.4 billion Namibian dollars. Now, Pick n Pay grew its sales by more than 5% over the past year, with its clothing division seeing 21% growth and the group's liquor sales increasing by more than 57%. The latter is despite the loss of 66 liquor trading days due to alcohol sales bans. In the previous year, it lost more than 200 days. In a trading update for the year ended 27 February 2022, the retailer said its group sales grew by 5.2% to 97.9 billion rand. This is despite the impact of the civil unrest in July 2021, which cost the retailer around 1.8 billion rand. In the final quarter of its financial year, sales increased by 7.4% thanks to a strong festive trade performance. Apart from strong growth in liquor and clothing sales, it also had solid growth in its delivery service app, which was launched on August 2021. Now let's get into your economic indicators. The Namibian dollar increased in value against the euro and Chinese yuan, while dropping against the British pound and the US dollar. No major changes are observed on the Namibia Stock Exchange, except for Namibia Breweries Limited stock prices, which dropped by 4.70%. Local index has dropped by 1.58%, while overall index has also declined. Gold prices rose by 0.12%, while these other major commodities have decreased in value. Now, the Ukraine war has exposed the inability of the United Nations to maintain international peace and security, according to South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa. Stick around for the full story after the break. You are still watching NMH at 1. We now take a look at latest news in our neighboring countries. We'll later extend to the rest of the globe. President Cyril Ramaphosa said that the war in Ukraine has exposed the inability of the United Nations Security Council to maintain international peace and security. The war in Ukraine has had an extraordinary impact on global affairs, and these developments will continue to define international relations into the future, he said. Last month, Ramaphosa blamed NATO for the war in Ukraine when answering questions in the National Assembly in Cape Town. Ramaphosa said he would resist calls to condemn Russia, insisting on on dialogue because war and violence never solves anything. The president also took a swipe at the United Nations and certain member states, including criticism of South Africa's decision to abstain during the recent UN General Assembly vote to condemn Russia for invading Ukraine. Yesterday, South Africa abstained once again after the UN General Assembly voted to suspend Russia from the UN Human Rights Council over what is said to be gross and systematic violations and abuse of human rights. Now, Nigerian authorities have issued new guidelines for trials of persons charged with terrorism in the Federal High Court. The measures include a ban on media coverage of court proceedings unless ordered by the trial judge, according to a statement from the Nigerian Federal Court. Only judges, lawyers, and parties to a case are to be allowed into courtrooms. There will be tight security during such trials, with members of the public barred from accessing the perimeter distance around the court building. The identities and contact details of victims and witnesses shall not be disclosed for their safety. Justice John Tehemba Tohom, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, said that any person who violates the guidelines shall be deemed to have committed an offense contrary to the country's anti-terrorism law. The authorities say the measures announced on Thursday take immediate effect. It comes a day before the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the outlawed separatist movement known as the Indigenous Peoples of Biafra, resumes. Now, up to 65% or around 2/3 of Africans have been exposed to the COVID-19 virus, according to the World Health Organization. A study has found a significant undercounting of infections on the continent because of so many cases with no symptoms. This indicates that true infections on the continent were 97 times larger than reported confirmed cases. Speaking to journalists, WHO Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Mashidi Somweti, said that the analysis showed that current reported COVID-19 confirmed cases were only a fraction of the actual number of infections on the continent. Africa has had milder coronavirus cases compared with other parts of the world because there is a comparatively smaller proportion of people with risk factors such as diabetes, hypertension, and other chronic diseases that are associated with more severe cases and deaths. We soon move over to international news. The United Nations has suspended Russia from the human rights body, after which Moscow subsequently quit. Stay with us for more after this break.
Have you received a loan from NSFAF? NSFAF loan is the same as any other loan. It must be paid and settled. NSFAF has a set of guidelines on how you can repay your loan and become debt-free. Therefore, it is important that you, a former beneficiary and a responsible Namibian, show your patriotism by helping pay back your loan and thus helping NSFAF become a revolving fund for the benefit of future potential students. By failing to pay back your NSFAF loan, you risk being blacklisted or having a court order against you. So arrange with the fund to pay back your loan today. For more information on how you can repay your loan, visit our website at www.nasfaf.na or visit our Facebook page or Twitter. Do the right thing and hashtag payback the money.
Moving on to international news, the United Nations General Assembly on Thursday suspended Russia from the UN Human Rights Council over reports of gross and systematic violations of and abuses of human rights in Ukraine, prompting Moscow to announce it was quitting the body. The US-led push garnered 93 votes in favor, while 24 countries voted no and 58 countries abstained. A 2/3 majority of voting members in the 193-member General Assembly in New York, abstentions do not count, was needed to suspend Russia from the 47-member Geneva-based Human Rights Council. Speaking after the vote, Russia's Deputy UN Ambassador Gennady Kuzmin described the move as an illegitimate and politically motivated step and then announced that Russia had decided to quit the Human Rights Council altogether. You do not submit your resignation after you are fired, Ukraine's UN Ambassador Sergei Kyslytsya told reporters. The United States was last year re-elected to the Council and suspensions are rare. Libya was suspended in 2011 because of violence against protesters by forces loyal to the then leader Muammar Gaddafi. US Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield said the United Nations sent a clear message that the suffering of victims and survivors will not be ignored. Now, Peru has declared a 1-month state of emergency to allow the armed forces to supervise its highways as the government of President Pedro Castillo tries to stem nationwide protests over rising fuel and food prices. Hundreds of truckers and farm workers have been blocking roads across the country for more than a week in anger over rising costs, which have spiked since Russia invaded Ukraine. The decree published in the official newspaper yesterday allows for the army to be deployed to clear the blockades, while also suspending certain constitutional rights such as freedom of movement and assembly. Clashes between protesters and police in Ica, about 300 kilometers south of the capital Lima, left one farm worker dead and 15 people injured, mostly police officers. Castillo's government has faced growing public anger over the crisis, especially after he imposed a mandatory 24-hour lockdown in Lima and a neighboring port city earlier this week in a bid to re-establish peace. Thousands of people had taken to the streets in defiance of the measure before Castillo cut the lockdown short on Tuesday evening, calling on Peruvians to be calm. The government has cut taxes on fuel, raised the minimum wage, and proposed exempting essential food items from sales tax. Now, the FIFA Normalization Committee is yet to touch base on the future and role of Namibia Football Association Secretary General Franco Cosmos. More on that when we get into local sports news after the break.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in one bundle. It's new, it's one bill, and you can stay connected in more than one location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Heading into your local sport on NMH at 1, the FIFA Normalization Committee is yet to touch base on the future and role of Namibia Football Association Secretary General Franco Cosmos, NC Chairperson Baizi Uirab has revealed. Now, Uirab has promised the media that the Normalization Committee will disclose its position on the matters concerning SG once it reaches that point. Uirab and his committee this week held several marathon meetings with employees of the association, but are allegedly yet to dwell on the Secretary General, who normally runs the daily affairs of the association. In FIFA's letter that announced the appointment of the NC, the world's governing football body claimed to have observed that the attitude and role played by the Secretary General had largely contributed to the strong divisions amongst members of the Executive Committee. Now, the Namibia Rugby Union League continues this weekend with exciting clashes as Namibia Media Holdings TV, social media and online platforms are set to screen the match at Suburbs Park live at 1:30 p.m. Namibia Media Holdings DSTV Channel 285 and GoTV Channel 94 will be at Suburbs Park to broadcast the matches between FNB Western Suburbs and Trusco United A and B teams. The match will also be screened on SportRap, Republican and Namibian Sun Facebook pages. The featured game of the weekend will kick off at 3:45 p.m. with both teams looking to redeem themselves from last weekend's losses. Moving over to boxing, AC Boxing Promotions has all systems set as they prepare for their Boxing Bonanza, which is slated for Saturday at the Nampower Convention Center. AC founder and promoter Ims Moses is inviting all to come in their numbers for the boxing event. The Bonanza will see boxers like Flames Nangolo, Harry Simon Jr. and many others lined up for the fight. Now, Kaizer Chiefs could potentially make available up to 20 million rand during the next transfer window for new recruitment. More on this in international sports news after the break. Let's head into the international sports scene on NMH at 1. Kaizer Chiefs could potentially make available up to 20 million rand during the next transfer window, which will then be utilized for new player recruitment. Chiefs will embark on the annual shake-up of their first-team squad at the end of next month, following a 7th consecutive season without winning silverware. Now, former national team star Ricardo Manetti has described compatriot Peter Shalulile as the best ever football export to come out of Namibia. The Mamelodi Sundowns striker recently became the first Namibian to score 18 league goals outside of his homeland after grabbing a hat-trick against Swallows FC on Wednesday. Now, Eintracht Frankfurt and FC Barcelona settled for a 1-1 draw in the Europa League quarter-final leg, first leg in Germany last night. The Catalan outfit made 3 changes from the win over Sevilla on Sunday, as Ronald Araujo, Gavi and Adama Traore were handed starts on the night. After the break, we'll get into today's highlights.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Let's get into the highlights from today's broadcast. The Home Affairs Ministry will have a stakeholders engagement this afternoon with the residents of Samora Machel constituency in Vanaheda, Windhoek. The engagement will focus on services and products that the ministry offers, such as birth certificates, identity documents, passports, the change of personal details in the national documents, and immigration, amongst others. This engagement will also allow the community to interact with the leaders and get inside information regarding national documents. President Cyril Ramaphosa said that the war in Ukraine has exposed the inability of the United Nations Security Council to maintain international peace and security. The United Nations General Assembly yesterday suspended Russia from the UN Human Rights Council over reports of gross and systematic violations and abuses of human rights in Ukraine, prompting Moscow to announce it was quitting the body. The US-led push garnered 93 votes in favor, while 24 countries voted no and 58 countries abstained. The FIFA Normalization Committee is yet to touch base on the future and role of Namibia Football Association's Secretary General Franco Cosmos, NC Chairperson Baizi Uirab has revealed. Namibia exported goods worth 5.7 billion Namibian dollars in February and imported goods worth 9.6 billion Namibian dollars, leading to a trade deficit of 3.9 billion Namibian dollars during the same month. Those have been your highlights. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1 and spending your lunch hour with me, Ashwin Berry. Remember to tune in every Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. as we take you through the latest happenings in Namibia. Stay with us for a compilation of news from across Namibia in our regional review segment, and have a great weekend.
Good day, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Regional Review. My name is Tonole Mongoba, and I will be your guest for this week's episode. And before we get into the gist of things, there are three things that I would like to highlight. Today is Zoo Lovers Day, and we also have three stories from the Kavango East region, from the Oshana region, as well as from the Hardap region, where we have a story from Monique Adams. So stay tuned and do not touch that dial. For our promo calendar event of the day, today is Zoo Lovers Day, and it is a day, a trip, or an excuse for you to take a trip to the zoo and see all of the beautiful animals in the world. So gather up your family and your friends, take a trip to the zoo, meet new people, also engage, and also have a nice little day where you just relax and visit the zoo. For us in Africa, we do not really have a huge variety when it comes to zoos, so maybe you should take that trip to Etosha, go to the savannas, and look at the different animals that are on offer. So watch this video that NMH prepared for you. For our first story, we are going all the way to Keetmanshoop, where Monique Adams brings us a story whereby the Keetmanshoop municipality hosted a plate unveiling in Central Park to honor the lives of those who were lost during the COVID-19 pandemic. Here's Monique Adams with more.
Now we head over to an unveiling plate that took place on the Sunday, 3rd of April, here in Keetmanshoop at the Central Park. It was in memory of lives that were lost during the COVID-19 pandemic.
To the unveiling ceremony of the COVID-19 Memorial today here in Central Park. COVID-19 came like a thief in the night and stole our beloved ones and our joy. Happy, healthy, productive members of society gone in a blink of an eye. What made us even worse was the fact that none of them, the comforting rituals that helped us to cope with the loss, were available to us. No final rites, no burial stories and love. Families gathered around to offer support. It was a time of profound loss and profound trauma. Which is why, Mr. Heiner Naumann, I want to extend a special word of welcome to you for the donation that made the construction of this memorial possible.
For our second story, we are going all the way to Rundu, where Kenya Kambowe tells us that the Rundu Town Council has approached the office of the Attorney General for a legal opinion as to whether they can terminate the contract of Red Force. Council wants to terminate the contract because Red Force is unable to recover the 5 million per month for the past 12 months. Here's Kenya Kambue with more.
Our second story under review is the marriage between Rundu Town Council and Red Force debt collectors. So basically what happened is that in November last year, the Rundu Town Council resolved to seek a legal opinion from the Attorney General's office to see whether they can terminate the contract they entered into with Red Force that was in October 2020. The reason why Council wants to terminate the contract is because Red Force is unable to fulfill their commitments as stipulated within their contract. Red Force is expected to recover around 450 million, which is owed to Council by the residents and various stakeholders. And in the contract, it says that per month, Red Force should rake in at least $5 million. However, the last time Red Force managed to recover 5 million or more was in February last year, which means a year later, Red Force is failing in its tracks to live up to the contract. It's on that basis the Council in November resolved to approach the Attorney General's office for a legal opinion. 5 months later, the Attorney General's office, however, did not respond to the Rundu Town Council. Attempts to get comment from Red Force proved futile. However, Rundu Town Council claims it stands a better chance because it has been receiving a lot of requests or threats from the community saying that they want Red Force out of Rundu. And it's on that basis the Red Force or the marriage between Town Council and Red Force is not that healthy anymore because they are unable to live to the expectations. The residents have also decided they won't pay the arrears because what happens is that when you don't pay Red Force, nothing happens to you. Because if you do not pay your water in Rundu, the others are paying for you. What do I mean by that? It means that Rundu has one system, they are on a prepaid system. The water which is consumed by everyone is on 1 meter, which is Nam water station. So what happens is that even if I don't pay my water bill and others pay, it's fine. And that is the situation we find ourselves in Rundu. Unless drastic measures are taken, the situation will remain as is. So basically, some people are refusing to pay Red Force even though they are being threatened. It's because they know that even if Red Force cuts off their water, they will be able to get water from somewhere else, from those who are working. So basically, the situation is very dire in Rundu, and the residents are calling in the council to do something better for them.
And for our last story, it is a story that I did, the interview with Tofele Shaduka, and I want you guys to re-watch it because Tofele Shaduka is going to be featured in next week's Zone. That is next week, Tuesday, and it's going to be inserted in all 3 daily newspapers of Namibian Sun. Here is Tofele Shaduka interviewed by me with more info.
Okay, my name is Teofilo Shaduka, but I prefer to be called Theo. It's a bit shorter and doesn't have that weird ring to it. So I am the junior mayor of Ongwediva and the head boy of Gabriel Tapopi School / the chairperson of NANSO at branch level for Gabriel Tapopi School. But I'm also running for elections to be the chairperson at regional level. But I am excited about all of this, but it's about my history. I'm actually, I'm from Windhoek, but because I was raised in the coast in Walvis Bay, Swakopmund, and then I moved to Windhoek from grade 1. So I've done my grade 1 in Windhoek at Van Rijn Primary School, which is a very good school, that I might add. So there is where I actually got all of my knowledge, my basics. It's basically where my roots are. I had a grade 1 teacher, Miss Suzette. She would always tell me that always be yourself. Don't let anyone change you. Don't let anyone, whatever they say, affect how you live your life and whatnot. Always be yourself, and that's important. So that's basically why I kind of identify well with the school. Ever since I've been at the school, I've always been this, people would say I was a nerd, but I prefer the word serious. I've always been serious in my studies and whatnot. But I did also prefer hanging out with friends and whatnot and socializing with people, because it's part of life. Doesn't always mean that if you go to school you have to be always deep into your books. You also have to socialize, because that's what school is part of. School is basically like a stepping stone in life, because in school is where you meet people, and it's basically preparing you for life. Imagine if school was only for learning, that's all, no socializing and whatnot. how would the people that are like in varsity be right now? What would they look like? They would seem really confused and they wouldn't even know what they're doing because they haven't gone through that stage of socializing. I mean, there are heartbreaks and whatnot, but it's just part of life. It's a learning process. So when I was elected as the junior mayor of Ongwediva, I felt really honored because the first step, as we all know, is that your school has to nominate you to actually be part of the junior council. But then we had a weekend where we're doing training, and then that's when we did the actual elections. So I was voted by my fellow junior councillors, and I believe that they saw certain qualities in me that just made them believe that I was the perfect fit for junior mayor. So when I actually heard the news, I was quite overwhelmed and proud of myself because I am the first male junior mayor, because the rest before me, the previous ones were females, but I actually am proud of it. So as it is right now, it's actually very overwhelming, but I kind of learned to balance everything because in life, I mean, we always have to prioritize. I don't always put one thing over the other, I just prioritize. For example, if it comes to school, if I know that I have a junior council event and I'm writing a test tomorrow, I focus more on my test because I have to prioritize. I mean, it's more like saying that my junior council event is in the weekend, my test is on Friday. I have to prioritize because which one seems more important to me. I know that the fact that this is going to help my CV or resume, but I really have to prioritize because without my schoolwork and without my books, it would actually mean nothing. And I'm actually very happy that I get support and all of the good advice from my teachers because I mean, sometimes I would notice that I would like go out of way and I would be too focused on one thing, or either too focused on being an LRC or too focused on being the junior mayor. I actually forget about my books, but I like the fact that they actually remind me constantly that no, I know that you have these responsibilities and whatnot, but you are here for school and please don't neglect it. And I'm actually very happy that I have teachers like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Taking a look at the weather from the north to the south, Ongwediva is hot and humid with patchy clouds and stray showers expected on Monday. Rundu can expect stray showers over the next week along with temps in the high 20s. Otjivrongo is partly sunny and pleasant with stray showers expected over the weekend. Mariental is mostly sunny and pleasant with temps in the low 30s. Karasburg is partly sunny and pleasant with showers expected tomorrow afternoon. Thereafter it will clear and temps will rise.
Thank you so much, viewers, for another amazing episode of Regional Review. From myself, Tunole Mongoba, and the rest of the Regional Review team, it is goodbye, and I will see you next week, same time, same place. So stay tuned, keep on watching our shows, keep on tuning in, keep on liking and sharing our channel so that we can get more viewers. So from myself, Tunole, once again, it is goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.